Bertemu kembali bagi membendung masalah penipuan peniaga dalam talian atau skamer. Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Hal Ehwal Pengguna KPDN HEP cadang memperkenalkan lesen khas perniagaan dalam talian. Timbalan Menterinya Datuk Rosul Wahid berkata cadangan itu bakal mewajibkan setiap peniaga dalam talian untuk mendapatkan lesen khas berkenaan. Menerusi lesen tersebut, peniaga akan tertakluk kepada syarat yang perlu dipatuhi, manakala pengguna dapat melakukan pembelian dalam talian tanpa ragu-ragu tentang kesahihan dan reputasi peniaga. Ia bukan sahaja dapat menjamin kepentingan dan hak pengguna daripada menjadi mangsa penipuan, tetapi juga dapat meningkatkan keyakinan pelanggan untuk berurus niaga. Selain itu, ia juga dapat mengukuhkan reputasi peniaga dan simbol pengiktirafan serta piawaian kualiti entiti perniagaan dalam talian. Mengikut rekod sehingga tahun 2020, Suruhanjaya Syarikat Malaysia SSM mendaftarkan sejumlah 355,676 perniagaan atas talian. Sepanjang 2020 sahaja, aduan mengenai transaksi dalam talian adalah paling tinggi diterima, iaitu 11,510 aduan. Daripada jumlah itu, 7,797 aduan adalah kerana tidak menerima barang atau perkhidmatan yang ditawarkan. Dan pada Mac tahun lepas, Presiden Persatuan Pemeriksa Fraud bertauliah menjangka pandemik COVID-19 akan akibatkan peningkatan penipuan seperti yang disaksikan ketika krisis ekonomi sebelum ini. Menurutnya, antara sebab ini berlaku adalah tekanan kepada syarikat dan pekerja untuk memastikan kelangsungan perniagaan di tengah cabaran ekonomi. Menurut Bruce Doris, ada tiga punca peningkatan penipuan termasuk tekanan, peluang dan rasionalisasi. Dan kesan ini dijangka akan berterusan untuk bertahun lamanya. Pada 2 Mac lepas, EU lapor yang ada orang tengah cuba untuk menipu kerajaan di serata dunia untuk beli 1 bilion dos vaksin COVID-19 yang tidak wujud dengan nilai $14 bilion. CNBC pada September turut lapor lebih 205,000 warga Amerika kerugian $145 juta sehingga September akibat ditipu semasa pandemik COVID-19. Di dalam negara juga ada laporan pihak yang menawarkan bekalan sarung tangan getah yang tidak wujud. Kita ingin bincangkan bagaimana ini dapat ditangani dengan teknologi dan juga apakah peranan kawalan dalam sesebuah organisasi di tengah COVID-19 bersama dengan Jared McDonald, Pengarah Penyelesaian Serantau untuk Penipuan dan juga Keselamatan SAS yang bersama kita menerusi Skype dari Singapura. Terus izinkan saya meneruskan dalam bahasa Inggeris. Jared, briefly let's recap. Why do you think fraud cases are increasing during an economic downturn, especially the ones that we experience or the one that we're experiencing right now?
It is bad right now. With the pandemic, it has made people more desperate than they have ever been before, certainly in our lifetimes. And they're resorting to desperate measures, and that means trying to grab extra funds from wherever they can. And it's not just people, of course. It's also the supply chains that we've seen with organizations. They've been impacted in a way that we've never seen before. We've all experienced the supermarkets and all the products disappearing from the shelves at the beginning of the pandemic. And that, can you imagine what that was like for the supermarkets at the time? They were desperately trying to find products because all the borders were shut down, all of their normal supply routes were impacted, and the supply organizations. And so they would sign up new contracts for suppliers on the fly in sheer desperation. And unfortunately, that volatility creates opportunity for fraud, waste, and abuse, like we've never seen before. So yes, in both cases, people and supply chains have been really badly infected during the pandemic.
We will be discussing the fraud in an organization, and when it comes to what you said earlier, companies face a lot of pressure to even continue their operations during this economic downturn and because of COVID-19. What are some of the top causes behind procurement fraud, waste, abuse, and how does continuous control perhaps combat this fraud?
So the main cause is people who are desperate to take money for themselves in some way or another. And we normally identify it in 3 different levels of desperation, if you want to call it that. The first level is opportunistic, where people just simply see there is an opportunity to take money. The second level is malicious, really, where people are angry, disgruntled, fed up, or feel they deserve more than they're getting, so they take the opportunity to take money from the organization. But the third level is the worst, which is premeditated criminal activity, where they even engaged with the company with the sheer intention of defrauding them right from the beginning. So they're the three main levels. The word we're playing around with here is actually corruption. And corruption in an organization is like a mold. It's a cultural issue that most companies face, where the idea of corruption starts to seep into the very bones of the organization at every level, and people think that it's all right for them to do that. And unfortunately, when that mold grows, it's very hard to eradicate. It typically takes a normal auditor around 32 months to find fraud that has happened in the organization, by which time the losses are huge and the ability to recover the funds are minimal. Possibly even the perpetrators have absconded by that time. So it's actually the single biggest source of fraud losses for most organizations, particularly in Malaysia right now.
You mentioned 32 months, yeah?
Yes.
What is this continuous control in the auditing process, and how can advanced data analytics, machine learning, and perhaps AI play an important role when it comes to detecting this fraud as early as possible to avoid these organizations incurring huge losses after 32 months?
Do you remember a couple of weeks ago in our last interview, just beforehand, you were interviewing an auditor actually and asking kind of this question. You were saying, how can auditors play more of a strategic role in an organization? And by using continuous controls, that's the answer. By using it as a tool to help them detect the fraud faster, earlier, and on a greater scale than they ever could by themselves is the biggest single value or extra value they can bring to an organization today. And it can monitor all kinds of activities. It can monitor the procure-to-pay processes, the supply chain, the contracts, the HR, expenses, payroll, all kinds of areas, and monitor them all together so that they can catch everything earlier. Now, advanced machine learning, AI, all of these kind of areas, they machine learn good behavior. And of course, we put into their best practices from other organizations too. And we identify a good transaction, as we'll say. But we can also identify bad transactions, far more complex transactions than a human being could typically do. And so it will find more fraud, waste, and abuse on a grander scale and faster than human beings can do. According to PwC, 43% of their respondents in a 2020 survey experienced fraud over the last 24 months, and 24% of those reported losses over 1 million in value from their most serious incident. So it is a major issue in Malaysia right now. And frankly, the only way you can catch that at the right speed to nip it in the bud and curb that cultural issue, start to change that cultural issue, is by using more advanced technology like AI, machine learning, etc.
So you've got data analytics, machine learning, and AI, but this could be costly to an organization that is now also struggling with the effect of COVID-19 on their businesses. Can they invest? Would all this be worth it at the end?
Well, so let me summarize some of those benefits that we're talking about, and then I'll give you an example of how this has helped another client. It helps catch that fraud earlier, so it saves money, and in fact it gives quite a rapid return on investment for most organizations. It finds more complex patterns that human beings couldn't find, so it finds more fraud as well. And it enables transparency. Because you're using a machine and you can visualize what's going on, you can show the results at the board level or the chief financial officer level, so you get greater awareness that helps change that culture in an organization as well. And it speeds up even the approval process. So at the moment, you could say that a lot of those internal transactions, like payments to a vendor, are slowed down because they need to check for fraud. Now, imagine if a machine could check that faster and identify low-risk cases for you. You could let through the low-risk cases faster and focus on the high-risk cases more effectively. And I call this the 80-20 rule. A typical auditor today spends at least 80% of their time just getting the information to help them make a decision that they're highly trained to make. And only 20% of the time actually making that decision. Now, using continuous controls, you shift the bar the other way so that only maximum 20% of their time is spent finding the information and 80% of their time is spent making the decision about what should be done. And of course, that entire window of time is reduced from what could have been weeks or months, or 32 months, as we said in the average case, to literally minutes. They can make the same level of decision in minutes and clear those processes. So you get this huge value add of the whole process becoming more efficient. That, of course, helps business. But the most valuable result that you get from the solution can't even be measured financially, and that's brand reputation, company reputation. There are companies that have failed overnight because of a massive reputational issue to do with internal corruption or fraud, and this could kill a company. So really making sure that your reputation is solid so that you can be trusted by your customers and by your suppliers and everybody else is actually the single biggest value and could be mission critical to the success of the organization. Now, I said I was going to give you an example earlier. One of our clients, a very large client outside Malaysia, identified over $300 million worth of contracts that were awarded to suppliers with known collusive relationships to employees just in the first phase of our solution. $300 million worth of, let's say, strange contracts that needed to be investigated. They did not find before. So the value is potentially immense, not just financially, but also for reputation.
But what skills do auditors need to have to be able to use these tools? I'm sure we are talking about people with auditors with multiple skills right now, upskilling these auditors so that they're able to use these tools to be able to detect corruption or fraud.
So the actual skills that an auditor would need is really what they have today. They are the subject matter experts. They are the people who put the wisdom and the genius into the machine. The machine is learning behavior, it's identifying behavior, and simply telling the auditors what's going on. And they make the ultimate decisions. They will actually help the machine improve and refine its processes and things. But really, their skills shouldn't change that much. The information will be presented to them in a simple, easy way for them to work and investigate. So from their side, not a huge amount of difference. Of course, it is dependent on skills behind the scenes with either a solution provider or maybe the IT department in an organization and a combination of both. But certainly the auditor themselves shouldn't really need to adjust their skill set too much.
Dan kita ada masalah sedikit dengan visual daripada Jared di Singapura pada ketika ini, tetapi saya akan cuba mendapatkan producer saya untuk mendapatkan visual tersebut kembali. Tapi Jared, you're still on the line, right, with us?
Yes.
Let's talk about the who should be the entities responsible in a company to deploy a continuous control and other proactive risk reduction efforts. We've talked about the auditors, but what about the other employees or other entities in that particular company?
That's a really good question. Now, let's clarify, though, that the responsibility definitely lies either with the auditors or with an independent division that is not linked to the rest of the organization, because, of course, they're finding suspicious behavior that the rest of the organization might not want them to find. So the auditor is definitely the owner of the system, but beneficiaries and the people who will see the results and even contribute to it could actually be the entire organization. I mentioned before, the people who are responsible for the supply chain in some way or another, vendor relationships, supplier relationships, but even the HR department, the payroll department, the expenses, all of the stakeholders in all of those different areas play a very important role in providing the information for this. But ultimately, the people who should be alerted would be an independent unit separate from them in an organization.
And Jared, let us look at the risk that perhaps has arisen because of COVID-19 and digitalization. Companies are now moving forward really fast when it comes to digitalizing some of their operations. Tell us about this risk that arises because of COVID-19 and digitalization.
Let me clarify that. It actually creates a huge opportunity to start with. That data that you're talking about, the fact that companies are becoming more digital, and even suppliers and everybody else, and they're using digital systems in their everyday work, actually creates a fantastic database on which analytics can run. So there is a greater opportunity than ever before to get value out of the advanced analytics and the machine learning. As far as risks are concerned, yes, of course, I mean, there are risks that people will manipulate that data or hack into the system and steal some of that data, and that has to be protected. Data privacy is still very important there. And we have seen famous cases where data has been stolen and used to abuse the system elsewhere. I'll give you a simple example of data theft that has harmed a company. We've seen banks, for example, where disgruntled employees have stolen customer information, especially private banks, and even shared it with certain governments so that they could take them to court for tax evasion and things. Yes, of course, there's good and bad in that. But the key point was that the data was stolen for a malicious purpose. And when the data is digital, you could argue that there is more data to be stolen. So that has to be protected very carefully. So it's good and bad. Opportunity for analytics, opportunity for data theft. And in fact, that data theft can be monitored by the system as well, potential data theft.
I want to go back to the question before that, Jared. I think the role of, we've talked about the role of internal auditors and why it's important because they understand the business better. I think I had a discussion with the auditor a few weeks before. But let's talk about the role of the employees in the organization itself. I think they also understand the business better as opposed to an external person coming in advising the company. Tell us about that. How can employees also play huge roles when it comes to combating corruption, fraud during this time? Because this as simple as getting an email from people asking what's your company information, this and that, or clicking on a link saying that we're waiting a payment from your company, and phishing emails. Tell us more about the role of employees during this very challenging period.
Vital. I mean, the single most important part of it is the employees, because every employee plays an essential role in what they do. And they could either be helping the system and changing the culture of the organization to stop the corruption, or there could be the people perpetrating the corruption, which would be terrible. But I take your point there also that being diligent and watching and being prepared to be whistleblowers when they need to, because they are actually doing a company a service by whistleblowing. And literally only 14% of organization or of the fraud that we have seen in Malaysia, particularly, has been identified using whistleblowers. And the statistics are that that's decreasing at the moment. So the culture is getting worse, and that needs to change. Definitely, the employees play a very vital role in helping change the culture and identify potential fraud that's going on, whether that's other people carrying out fraud in the organization or threats coming from outside, like the email message you mentioned there. There's been plenty of fraud cases where foreigners have taken over email accounts of companies and then sent a message to somebody to say, please make a payment to this account instead of that one, pretending that they are a representative of that company, and then diverting the funds into their own pockets. And if employees are more diligent and more conscientious, they would just do an extra check to make sure that's really the case. Call them up or do something, because they're actually doing both the company, the other company, and themselves a favor by being more diligent and more conscientious.
On that note, thank you very much, Jared McDonald, Pengarah Penyelesaian Serantau untuk Penipuan dan Keselamatan SAS yang bersama kita melalui Skype dari Singapura. Thank you very much, Jared, for joining us this morning. Kita berhenti berehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.